Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In this video, something a little bit different, I suppose, to what we have been working on this year. And that's because it's the start of the Premier League season, or at least it is coming up at the time of recording, about 4 weeks away. So, um, particularly, I guess, as we sort of wrap up towards the end of the SuperCoach NRL fantasy seasons, AFL as well. Sometimes you run out of trades and there's not a lot to do. Uh, so, and to fill in the months before the next season starts, something like Fantasy Premier League is something I enjoy. Um, Probably also a lot of the, I guess, even more so than the Fantasy Premier League stuff. I do enjoy the NFL fantasy, and we'll definitely do some stuff around that over the summer. But yeah, I just thought I was going to go in and start having a bit of a look around. So for those that aren't too familiar, we'll go through some of the basics and put together the first sort of squad. Again, that we are a few weeks away from uh, the start of the season, so there's definitely going to be some changes and tweaks. But this is often the time of year we do enjoy in terms of the super coach, or in this case FPL, is you've got unlimited trades. You can swap and change whatever you want, try out stuff, and get ready to get into it. So, in terms of the Fantasy Premier League and how it works, so essentially you pick a squad of 15 players. You get 100 points to spend, so they don't use money because obviously in the Premier League there's a ridiculous amount of money and no salary cap. So the points are a way of, I guess, keeping everyone's squads on the similar sort of level. With that, you do have positions, so you do have to select two goalkeepers, five defenders, five midfielders, and three forwards. Out of that squad of 15, you do pick a starting 11 every week. And then obviously you end up with a reserve goalkeeper, but then you end up with three reserve players, which you then put in preference order. And then obviously the first preference is the first reserve if a player's missing or injured or whatever the case may be. I guess the difference with Premier League over something like Supercoach or NRL Fantasy is it is flexible how many of each players that you play. In saying that, you do have to have at least three defenders. I think three midfielders is the minimum, and at least one forward. You can play all three. You have to have at least one. Um, so yeah, the other things, I guess, you can only have a maximum of three players per one team. So you can't just load up on all, say, Manchester City players. Uh, or even if you wanted to go cheaper and load up on, say, all the Burnley players, if that's your team, you have to, share the love around the whole Premier League. So in terms of putting the team together, you can see that the players here on the right, and they are ranked in order from their point scoring last season. Um, So yeah, and as you can see, goalkeepers tend to only go up to about 5.5 there, or 5.5 points. Defenders, so you've got a couple of big hitters there at the top. I think Alexander Arnold would be the most expensive at 8 million. Midfielders, so there's one standout there, Mohamed Salah at 12.5, and the forwards, I guess the two big guns are Haaland and Kane. So obviously, as you can see, when you look at their points, they're close to 100 points ahead of the next best forward, Mo Salah. He's been a top scorer for years, so his uh, his price probably reflects that. But you can see there's maybe a bit more value in midfield, and with defenders, same sort of deal. Alexander Arnold has been at the top of the list for a few years. I guess Liverpool weren't the strongest defensively last year, which might have cost him. Kieran Trippier was the top defender. And then the goal, and I guess the other note trend you'll notice as well is that you've got these two big hitters up front, but after that, probably midfielders are the highest scoring players on average. They do have some advantages in the way that they're scored, and then defenders and goalkeepers. So I guess as a general strategy, you don't want to spend too much on the goalkeepers. Um, Sometimes people will go with a big defense at the start of the season, try to get some extra points out of things like clean sheets. So I guess I should explain the scoring too. So essentially, you get points for things like goals, assists. Defenders get points for clean sheets and goalkeepers too. Penalties and penalty saves. Well, penalties count as a goal. Penalty saves for the keepers as well is a good way of scoring points. And I guess the reason why midfielders score so well is obviously they're involved with a lot of goals and assists. They actually get an extra point for a goal. So I think from memory, it's 5 points for a forward, 6 for a midfielder, and 7 for a defender if they score. I've probably got that wrong. Um, but there is like that increase. So goal scoring midfielders are of a premium. And also with midfielders, they do get a single point for a clean sheet. Defenders and goalkeepers get 2 points. There are some more complex rules around having to play a certain amount of time to qualify for clean sheet points and stuff. But particularly if you're not, experienced in this game, yeah, you can work that out later. Probably the other big difference with Premier League to Supercoach, say for example, is you can trade as much as you want. You get one free transfer every week, um, so you can bank up two transfers and do them at the same time. Um, if you wanted to do more than one transfer, or you've got two banked up and you wanted to do more than two transfers, you can, but it does cost you 4 points. Um, so that's just something to keep in mind. There is also, I just realised there's a lot more to this than I thought. Maybe once I build the team, you'll see a bit better. But there is also a few what they call chips that you can use throughout the season. So you have what's called a free hit, which basically means you can trade as much as you want for a week and then it reverts back to your original team. You have two wild cards, and so wild card is unlimited trades for the week to your current team, and then that's the team you've got. And then also a triple captain. So you do have a double captain score. You actually have a chip where you can get a triple captain score for 1 week. Um, yeah, so I think that's the basics. As I said, it's more about picking the team and having a look because I'll be honest, I haven't even really looked too close. I have watched a few videos from FPL Mate. That is probably my source for FPL information. I do enjoy his videos. It's where I stole the buy, sell, keep, avoid sort of section of the stock market video from. So shout out to FPL Mate. Thanks for helping me with my team over the years. But let's get into it. So obviously, we've got the big hitters here, and I think got to get Erling Haaland in there. Playing for Man City, scores goals for fun. Um, yeah, he's a clear and obvious one. I think with the other two, you've got Harry Kane with, obviously playing at Tottenham. Ange Postecoglou, shout out to the big man from Australia, finally getting a run. His, I guess, centre forwards where Harry Kane plays aren't traditionally big goal scorers. They're more points to feed off of, and the midfielders around them are the ones that tend to get a few more points. So probably not going to start with Kane until we sort of see that he is going to score some goals. And also with Mo Salah, I think he is sort of sliding back to the pack a bit. A few years ago, it was pretty set and forget, get Salah in and lock him in. But he is getting older, and this is coming from me as a massive Liverpool fan. I should state that from the off. But I think it's worth just maybe having a look. Um, and there's probably some more value in the midfield. We can sort of try and bulk that up. I think might be the strategy at the moment until I see otherwise. So I guess only going with the one premium option does give us some more money to go for some upper options in the other lines. So I guess in terms of the midfield, the players that I'm keen on are Saka at 8.5 points. I keep going to say money, but it's all in points. Oh, it does say pounds, so 8.5 pound, probably million. Let's be honest. But plays for Arsenal, which is obviously a good team. Takes penalties, which is a few free points when you score a goal. Um, and they pushed Man City pretty close to the title last year, so he's definitely one I want to get in the midfield. Um, at the moment, I'm liking the look of Fernandez from Man United. Obviously, as a Liverpool fan, it's always a bit grating to bring in any Man United player, but based on what he's done in the past at 8.5, that could be some really nice value. Um, Another player that I am interested in is Eze from Crystal Palace. So a bit of a mid-range option, I guess you would call it, at 6.5, but seems to have taken over from Wilfried Zaha as the main man there at Crystal Palace. Um, hopefully takes penalties and that sort of stuff. So a good way to get into the midfield value there. Um, One that's really interesting but might be a bit out of reach. We'll see how we go for money. Is Heung-min Son. He seems like the sort of player that will do well with Postecoglou's system. Um, so yeah, definitely one to keep an eye out on. Um, so I guess these are all the top players too. So it is sort of hard um, to see through. We can sort by the type. So we keep looking at midfielders maybe to start with. Phil Foden, he's the one I think from Man City that's going to provide value. So there is a hole with Gundogan going to Barcelona. And hopefully Foden is the sort of player that can fill it. Looks like there's a bit of doubt about Kevin De Bruyne as well. So when he plays, he scores well, Phil Foden, but he does get a bit lost in the rotation at Man City. They've got so many guns; they do tend to rotate through. Um, I guess Matoma is a popular pick from Brighton. He plays on the wing, but is very attacking. I guess sort of in the frame of a Mo Salah. Um, Yeah, and I think he was a mid-season pickup too. So his points were only off half a season. Extrapolate that out, he is at the top of the list. Um, Madison will be an interesting one in the Postacoglu system, so it could be worth a look. Um, but after that, I probably can do with a cheaper option in there too, see if we can spread some money out. So just trying to remember some of the cheaper options that have been floated up. I guess you see some players like Casemiro, who looks like, oh, that's good value for a gun player. Generally, defensive midfielders aren't the best picks in FPL, just purely because they don't score as many goals and assists. They do more of the dirty work around the field. So, might be the options at 0 points. So, I guess the other thing is all the new players for the season will appear. Is that Nicholas Pepe? Yeah, it'd be interesting if he played for a different club. um, but yeah, I guess all the players that haven't played last year on 0 points you'll find here. There's lots of cheap options in amongst all this. You'd think, given clubs like Burnley didn't play last year, they've been promoted. Uh, Jobber Sly, I think that's how you say it, from Liverpool, he could be a bit of alright. Luton Town coming in this year. Might just wait and see how they go first. I'm trying to remember. There was a couple of cheap options, but I don't really remember who they were. So we'll see how we go. Might have to sort by cash later on. So with the defenders, I think Trippier is a must-have. Given he's very similar to Alexander Arnold in that he takes free kicks and and corners, which goals and assists. Newcastle's defence was pretty good last year. They're a team on the up. So, yeah, I had him last year. He was great. Get him in this year. Alexander Arnold's a maybe. I might add him in for now, see how we go for money. Um, yeah, if we can afford him, he's definitely worth having because he does have that upside. And given Liverpool is focusing on their midfield, I really think they'll be better defensively this year. I think the other obvious one is a Stupinan. It's Stupinan. I can't say it. From Brighton. So another player they brought in and he absolutely killed it last year. So I guess the thing in common with all these players is they all play as a fullback or wing back, which means that they're generally more aggressive than the central defenders, and then they have that upside of the attack as well as the points and I guess clean sheet points and defensive points that are available. Andy Robinson, is always a decent shout. Um, and saying that, it looks like Liverpool's system's a bit more about getting Alexander Arnold up into the sort of midfield, a bit like Man City's 3-2-5 in attack. So might be one worth a miss at the moment. Zinchenko, he's sort of the Arsenal version of that, but is a bit inconsistent with injuries and the like. Um, but I guess generally, the way a lot of teams will play is, if we're playing these three defenders, we're probably going to have two defenders on the bench. So we'll probably find a couple of cheaper options, I think, to flesh out the bench. And I'm just trying to find the examples that I can remember because, again, that's it's all disappeared from my mind. Matt Cash would be an interesting one at 4,500 or 4.5. Um, Plays for Aston Villa, but is a right back. Um, and yeah, has history as a Supercoach FPL scorer. Just missed a lot of last year with injury. Luca Digne from Aston Villa as well is a pretty attacking left back. Not sure why he scored so low though. Must have been injury as well. Who else we got? Yeah, so I guess I'll just go back because I did see someone that was interesting, like Aymeric Laporte from Man City. Yeah, obviously Man City's a great defense, but central defenders generally don't score as well. They do, or some of them do have a threat in terms of from corners. They're usually the targets because they're big and tall and good at heading. But you don't want to have too many central defenders in your team. But still going through. Looking at some of these names, they must have missed a lot of last season. Like Tommy Yasu was a popular pick last year for Arsenal, but only scored 32 points. Uh, yeah, I don't think there's anyone there particularly interesting. Um, Luton. Was it Luton or was it? I'm trying to remember who the other teams were. There was Burnley, Luton, and Sheffield. So yeah, was it? No, it wasn't Basham. Baldock. Yeah, so Baldock from Sheffield United, 4 million, which is the lowest price for a defender, and I'm pretty sure lowest price for a goalkeeper as well. But again, wing back, um, so that upside of the attacking stats, how defensively solid Sheffield are, we'll wait and see. But yeah, as a 4 million option, that's not too bad. With goalkeepers, we'll keep it simple. Probably because you're going to start. You can either pick one player to start each week, and then like a $4 million what we call enough. Or some people like to pick two 4.5s that rotate with each other. Basically, what that means is generally when one has a good fixture, the other one or when one has a bad fixture, the other one has a good fixture. So you can take that approach. Um, but I guess as a general rule, you don't really want to spend more than 9 million in your goalkeeper slot. So I think one of the more popular picks will be Ramsdale because he's 5 million and playing for Arsenal. That's a good thing. Nick Pope, Allison, and Edison. Probably the three above him are all at that higher price. Um, but is there any value that we can look at? Yeah, so Martinez was popular last year, or last couple of years, particularly with Argentina at the World Cup doing the business. But 5 million, it's maybe not worth it. So, so Sanchez has been popular in the past, but I'm pretty sure he's uh, he's lost his place to Steele. So you can have a strategy like picking Sanchez and Steele as your two goalkeepers. And obviously, if one doesn't play, the other one does. But as you can see, I've already got two players from Brighton, so I couldn't do that because I'd have more than three players from Brighton. So it's not really going to work out. I'm trying to think. There was a player that's been pretty popular picked. Flecken, I think it was. So um, I guess there was Raya, who was actually the top scorer last year. There's a lot of talk he's going to get a trade, probably to Tottenham, um, which if he was the first choice there, he could be a shout at 5 mil. But Brentford are traditionally quite strong defensively, not the strongest in the league by any stretch, but 4.5, he could be one of the better picks. Um, and then, yeah, if we want a 4 million player, there might not be any that are starting. Last year, there was actually a couple. I think it was the Leicester goalkeepers were both 4 million, so you could pick them, and they sort of rotated well with each other. But in saying that, who we got? I might have to go back and have another look, but at this stage, maybe. Oh, there's another page. Anyone on here? I'll just go this lad, Sarkic. So actually, I think can sort by team as well. So if we go through the teams like Wolves, so yeah, so he'd be behind Jose Sa, but if he was to get a trade, maybe he'd be number one. Might be a case of we just have to go through all the teams. Ramsdale's pretty obvious. Martinez, Pedro Neto. Oh, Travers got some games last year. That's interesting. Brentford, as we said, if Ray is out, then Flecken's a good pick. Maybe we should pick someone that we're more sure in, though. Sanchez and Steele sort of shared the job last year. Burnley promoted team, so I guess it looks like Muric should be number one pick, but probably not sure how they'll go defensively. Reza Balaga, Chelsea. I guess if you think Chelsea's going to improve, that could be an okay shout, but questionable. Guerra, Pickford, Everton haven't been fantastic lately. Oh, Leno. Actually, I might go a bit of Burn Leno, so then we can also go with Rodak. Why not? So yeah, we'll go with the Fulham keepers for the time being, just to see how we go for cash. Got 12 mil, which should be enough to get the job done here. So we've still got a couple of forwards to pick. So let's go to forwards. So with 12 mil, there's couple ways. You can look for a couple of 6 million type options and bang them in, but as you can see, most of the next tier are all a bit higher in price. I'm pretty sure if we go to the very end, the bargain basement is 4.5. So even if we got one of them in, uh, just pick this lad for a second. It only gives us 7.5 mil, which sort of takes us away from. If I go right back, takes us away from picks like Callum Wilson was a good one last year, Gabriel Jesus. So we might have to chop down on the midfield a bit, or even we get rid of Alexander Arnold. So I think maybe at the moment we'll go with midfielder out. Midfielders. We'll just go right down the bottom, see what we can get. Not much by the looks of it. I think there was a bit of a talk about this. Nakamba might actually go to Luton Town, which would make him a decent shout at 4.5 because he might actually get game time. Most of these guys are bench position holders. uh, who else was there? Oh, Qual, the Australian lad. Could get on him. Hopefully he gets a game somewhere, but that's all right. Yeah. Oh, and Dombele was the other one that I think Ange Postecoglou was keen to keep around. So it could be interesting to see how that panned out. But we'll sort of cut a bit there, and that gives us 16 million to spend. So we could go pretty big in the forward line if we wanted to. Obviously not Harry Kane big, but we could go Wilson and Jesus. So we could do something like that. Once we've got our 15 players in there, and we've used all the money, enter the squad. So the team name will go with the trusty team name. Favourite club is, of course, Liverpool. Enter squad. Right, and there we go. So game week 1 kicks off 12th of August on Saturday, 3:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Time. So obviously not the best to follow in terms of the lockouts and last minute team news and stuff. Because generally teams aren't announced till about an hour before kickoff, which can make it a little bit tricky to follow sometimes. But I guess if we go and set up our squad for match day 1, as it is, Matoma's in, Jesus in, so we've got our cheap options on the bench. Swap those two over. Alright, and then you got captain and vice captain, so it makes sense to have the C on Haaland and maybe Saka with the VC option. Yeah, so maybe something like that. As I said, this is just my first look at it. Like I said, watched a couple of videos, but already forgotten most of the stuff that was on there. So I'll go back and make some more detailed notes. uh, but yeah, you can also see things like bench boost is available if you wanted to play that. Bit ballsy in the first week. Triple captain, you could play in the first week if you really wanted to. But because of the schedule, sometimes teams get what they call double game weeks. They play 2 games in the same sort of allocated game space. So that's the time to target these sort of things where they can quickly multiply the overall score. But we'll save the team with the captain and vice captain, have a bit of a play around. And then, we might come back to this a bit closer to game week 1. So that's Fantasy Premier League. If you have any thoughts on the team, or you actually know more about it than me, which I wouldn't be too surprised to be honest, feel free to comment on the video. Like the video if you do enjoy this sort of content, would like to see some more. Subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all the videos. Like I said, at the moment, it's still mostly NRL, bit of AFL as well there. But I guess as we get into the off season, there'll be fantasy Premier League, NFL fantasy type stuff. And other than that, catch you in the next one.